The coach, I'm telling you, they lied to us.
No, and that's a good question because you brought that up, and I was going to ask you, and you actually made an excellent point because I agree with you. There's been a lot of people in the NFL that have lied to us about Shedeur. Why do people continue lying to us about Shedeur? Because I could make the case that Kevin Stefanski lied to us about Shedeur. He said it was a four-man competition. He is the only one, Shedeur Sanders is the only one not to get a first-team rep in OTAs. So why are they lying to us about Shedeur? Is it because potential blowback? Because, hey, if you don't give Shedeur's chart, we're going to riot, we're going to do this, we're going to do that? I'm just trying to understand why no one can keep it real about Shedeur, because everyone has lied to us.
It's until we...
The Cleveland Browns, Kevin Stefanski, just got caught in the biggest lie of his coaching career, and the evidence is damning. He promised us a four-man open competition for the quarterback position, swearing that every single QB would get equal first-team reps. But here's the kicker. While Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel have been rotating with the starters, Shedeur Sanders has been completely frozen out, relegated to throwing against third and fourth stringers. And now, after going an absolutely ridiculous 41 out of 53 attempts during OTAs making throws that had onlookers, doing double takes every single day, the question isn't whether Stefanski lied to us anymore. The question is, why is he so terrified of what happens when Shedeur actually gets his shot with the first team? Look, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. When a head coach stands in front of cameras and tells the entire football world that this is going to be an open competition where every single quarterback gets those reps, you expect some level of integrity, right? You expect that when he says four-man competition, he actually means four men competing. But what we've witnessed in Cleveland is nothing short of a complete betrayal of that promise. And honestly, it's starting to smell like panic. Let me break down exactly what's been happening at these OTAs, because the numbers don't lie, even when coaches do. We've got Joe Flacco, and okay, let's be real, he's already solidified his spot as the veteran presence. Nobody expected him to get a ton of reps. Then you've got Kenny Pickett, who's been rotating with the first team, getting quality snaps with the starting offense. Dylan Gabriel, the third-round pick, who Stefanski is clearly invested in protecting, has been getting consistent first-team opportunities to dot. And then there's Shedeur Sanders, the same Shedeur Sanders who just went 41 for 53 during OTAs. Let that sink in for a second. That's a 77.4% completion rate against whatever defense they put in front of him. But here's the thing that should have every Browns fan asking serious questions. He's doing this against the second, third, and fourth string defenders, while the other quarterbacks are getting their chances against the actual starting defense. But wait, it gets worse. Because while Shedeur is out there making throws that have insiders and reporters literally stopping what they're doing to watch, Dylan Gabriel is struggling when he gets his shot with the ones. We're talking about passes getting batted down, incomplete throws, the kind of performances that should have any reasonable coach thinking, maybe I should give the other guy a chance. The frustration from people around the league is real, and it's justified. Emmanuel Acho and other analysts are calling this exactly what it is, a lie. Not a miscommunication, not a change in strategy, but a straight-up lie to the fans, the media, and probably to Shedeur Sanders himself. Here's what really gets me fired up about this whole situation. During the draft process, we watched team after team pass on Shedeur Sanders. The Dallas Cowboys needed a backup quarterback. At minimum, Cooper Rush had already left for Baltimore. They had every reason to grab a talented QB, but they waited until the third round to address the position, and still didn't take Shedeur. The Pittsburgh Steelers needed a quarterback, period, not just a backup, and they waited until the sixth round to draft Will Howard while Shedeur was sitting right there one round earlier. Think about that logic for a second. If you genuinely believed Shedeur Sanders was first or second round talent, which his college production and OTA performance clearly suggest, then finding him available in the fifth round should have been like finding a Rolex at a garage sale. But instead, teams kept passing, and now we're seeing why.
But no, I think there probably is a little bit of stubbornness involved with this, where they feel convinced that Dylan Gabriel can be a good quarterback in this league on some level, which is why they took him with the top 100 pick. Maybe they do view him as like a long-term backup, which, I still would argue taking a long-term backup in the third round with the top 100 pick was questionable. I think everyone felt that way after the pick was made. And so, yeah, I think there's probably a little bit of that involved, and I think that will sort of show itself in training camp too, because I'm going to assume that he's going to be first up in this conversation and first up with reps when it comes to actually working in with the ones like he was this past week and showcasing what he brings to the table. So I think there are certainly shortcomings for him. I will say, like, in context, Shedeur looked good, which is what we would want and would hope for, but he also was doing it against the 3s, the 4s, and at times the 2s. And so
Not about talent. It's about something else entirely. The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. Team after team, coach after coach. They all seem to have the same playbook when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. Promise opportunity, deliver excuses. Tell the world you're giving him a fair shot, then make sure the cameras catch him throwing against players who won't be on an NFL roster in September. But here's where Kevin's lie becomes even more obvious. According to insider reports from the facility, when Dylan Gabriel was out there with the first team offense, he was struggling. Balls getting knocked down, throws sailing high. The kind of performance that should raise red flags for any coaching staff. At that point, any coach who actually meant what he said about an open competition would have pulled Gabriel aside and said, "Let's see what the other guy can do." That didn't happen. Instead, they kept feeding Dylan Gabriel first-team reps, while Shedeur Sanders continued to light up the second and third-string defenses, going 41 for 53 and making what insiders called head-turning throws every single day of minicamp. Every single day. Let me paint this picture for you, because it's important you understand what's happening. Picture Shedeur Sanders dropping back in the pocket, scanning the defense, and delivering strike after strike against whatever unit they put in front of him. Completions on timing routes, perfect balls in tight windows. The kind of throws that make coaches stop talking mid-sentence because they have to watch. Now picture the coaching staff seeing all of this and still refusing to give him even one snap with the starting offense. The insider reports are damning. One analyst described Shedeur as the most consistent of the quarterbacks, regardless of which group he was working with. Another noted that he consistently was making the throws, looked really good doing it, and had the most head-turning throws of the entire minicamp. These aren't hometown reporters trying to create controversy. These are professional evaluators calling it like they see it. So why is Kevin Stefanski so committed to this charade? The answer might be simpler and more embarrassing than anyone wants to admit. They're trying to save face. Think about it from Stefanski's perspective. You draft Dylan Gabriel in the third round with a top 100 pick. That's significant draft capital for a quarterback you're supposedly planning to develop as a long-term backup. Multiple analysts questioned that pick the moment it was announced, calling it questionable value for that draft slot. Now, if you immediately turn around and give equal opportunities to an undrafted rookie who's outperforming your third-round investment, what does that say about your evaluation skills? It says you might have screwed up. And in the NFL, admitting you screwed up can cost you your job. But here's the thing about trying to save face. Eventually, the truth comes out. And right now, the truth is telling us that Shedeur Sanders is making throws that Dylan Gabriel isn't making, showing consistency that Dylan Gabriel isn't showing, and doing it all while being denied the same opportunities that Dylan Gabriel is getting. The stubbornness is becoming obvious to everyone watching. Insiders are reporting that there's a little bit of stubbornness involved with the coaching staff, that they feel convinced that Dylan Gabriel can be a good quarterback in this league on some level, which is why they used that top 100 pick on him. But conviction and reality are two different things, and reality is playing out every day at these OTAs. Here's what should terrify Kevin Stefanski. What happens when training camp starts and the real evaluation begins? Because if Shedeur Sanders gets even a handful of first-team reps and shows out the way he's been showing out against lesser competition, there's going to be no hiding the fact that they've been wasting everyone's time with this fake competition. That smart money says they're going to try to slow play Shedeur through training camp too. giving Dylan Gabriel every possible advantage to justify that third-round pick. But here's the problem with that strategy. You can't hide great quarterback play forever. Eventually, someone's going to demand answers about why the guy going 41 for 53 and making lateral throws every day isn't getting the same opportunities as the guy struggling against first-team defenses. Let's talk about what we're really seeing here, because this goes beyond just quarterback competitions. This is about organizational integrity. When you promise something to fans, to media, to the players themselves, your word has to mean something. Kevin Stefanski stood up there and told us this would be a four-man open competition where everyone gets their chance. That was either true when he said it, or it was a lie designed to manage expectations and buy time. Based on what we've seen so far, it's looking a lot like the latter. Let's go back to those numbers because they're staggering. 41 completions out of 53 attempts. That's not just good, that's exceptional for any level of football, let alone for a rookie making his first impression in professional football. We're talking about a completion percentage that would lead most college conferences and compete with the best NFL quarterbacks on their good days. But it's not just the completion rate, it's the context. According to the reports, Shedeur was making these throws no matter which group he was with, meaning whether he was facing second-string, third-string, or fourth-string defenses, he maintained that same level of precision and decision-making. That kind of consistency is exactly what you want to see from a young quarterback. And it's exactly the kind of performance that should earn you more opportunities, not fewer. Meanwhile, Dylan Gabriel's struggles with the first-team defense are being glossed over. No specific statistics are being released about his performance, which in itself tells a story. When a player is performing well, teams and coaches love to share those numbers. When they're not performing well, suddenly everything becomes about development and process rather than results. The question that should be keeping Kevin Stefanski up at night is this: what happens when the real games start? What happens when fans who are promised an open competition realize they were lied to? What happens when Shedeur, despite limited opportunities, continues to outperform the player they invested a third-round pick in? Because here's the thing about lies in professional sports: they have a way of exposing themselves in the most public and embarrassing ways possible. You can control the narrative during OTAs, you can manage who gets which reps during but when the season starts and you need to win games, none of that political maneuvering matters anymore. The Cleveland Browns have a decision to make, and Kevin Stefanski has a choice to make. He can continue down this path of protecting his draft pick and managing optics, or he can actually honor the promise he made about giving everyone a fair shot. Because right now, going 41 for 53 while being denied first-team reps isn't a fair shot. It's a waste of talent and a disservice to everyone involved. But here's what I want to know from you. Are we being too harsh on Stefanski? Or is this exactly the kind of organizational dishonesty that destroys team culture? Is Shedeur really getting a raw deal? Or is there something we're not seeing behind the scenes? The evidence seems pretty clear to me. When you promise an open competition and then systematically exclude one participant from the most important part of that competition, you're not running a competition, you're running a charade. And when that excluded participant is going 41 for 53 and making throws that have professionals stopping their conversations to watch, that charade becomes impossible to justify. Training camp is coming, and that's when we'll really find out what Kevin Stefanski is made of. Will he continue to protect his investment in Dylan Gabriel at the expense of potentially better talent? Will he finally give Shedeur the first-team reps he was promised? Or will we get more of the same, more excuses, more managed expectations, and more wasted opportunities? The clock is ticking, and the numbers don't lie. 41 for 53. Remember that stat, because it might just be the number that exposes one of the biggest coaching lies of the year. The truth has a way of coming out in professional sports, and Kevin Stefanski's truth is starting to show. Shedeur has done everything asked of him and more, posting numbers that should demand respect and opportunity. Instead, he's getting the runaround from a coaching staff that seems more interested in protecting their draft picks than finding their best players. What do you think? Is this just smart roster management, or is Kevin Stefanski panicking about what happens when his lie gets fully exposed? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear if you think Shedeur deserves better, or if there's something we're missing about this whole situation. And if you want to stay updated on all the drama happening around the league, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, with stories like this breaking every week, you don't want to miss out on the real talk about what's happening behind the scenes in the NFL. Until next time, keep questioning what they're telling us, because sometimes the most interesting stories are the ones they don't want us to hear.